What is up, everyone? It's R&R here talking football. We got a big Jets episode today. We'll assess the year in review for the offense. We'll go in depth with each position group, discussing the players, summarizing their 2021 seasons, and really what we can expect from them going into 2022. Also, at the end of the episode today, we're going to discuss the Jets Senior Bowl roster on offense, as today the offensive line position groups were released. So the entire offense, we now know that the Jets coaching staff will have the Senior Bowl. So excited to dive into this episode today.
Yeah, well, you pretty much covered it up. So let's just hop right into it. Probably the side of the ball that we're kind of most excited for, just going forward in general, which is a shock being a Jets fan, but we do have some nice young talent there, and I'm excited to see what we do and how these guys progress and develop in year 2 and 3. So anyway, let's go with the main man himself, Zach Wilson. I think we covered it a little bit on just the outlook of the season, but like end of the year very strong. I don't think anything. I don't think your stance has changed on him, depending on how you felt about him in the pre-draft process. Like you got to give these guys time, and the team has to get better around him. And obviously, playing in, I believe, what was it, 14 games? 13 games?
13 or 14.
Like, it takes time to just really get into it and get comfortable in the NFL. And I think you've seen that toward the later part of the year, not just in stats or the games, but actually if you watched each and every single throw, he even seemed to be pointing it out. The game just seemed like it slowed down for him. So I'm excited to see how he does in year 2.
Absolutely. I mean, I really agree with everything you said there. I feel like I will say the raw talent from Zach from like the first preseason game was certainly on display. The arm strength, the accuracy, the ability to be successful off play action in Mike LaFleur's offense. Outside of the pocket, he's got great accuracy, anticipation. Obviously, he can place football wherever he wants down the field. And I mean, his athleticism really stood out. I mean, he's a great athlete. He has a great feel in the pocket to escape pressure. And just like overall from, his season in the games, we obviously talked about the Titan game and how exciting that was in the second half. You saw just the big plays, the ability to stay calm and cool under pressure. And then, I feel like we all expected adversity, and it was good that, he faced that with the injury. He was able to take a step back, and we'll obviously talk a little bit about Mike White and Joe Flacco here too, the quarterback position. And then when he was able to come back, like you said, obviously the last 5 games didn't throw an interception, which is very impressive. The game slowed down. His ball placement was great, really on all 3 levels. You think about obviously the Buccaneer game, like we highlighted last week. Just tons of great throws, and his talent is obviously, something that's always been there. And I think with more continuity with LaFleur, Michael Carter, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, you're just going to see Zach. I expect him to take that year 2 lead next year.
Yeah, I think it's important to note quarterbacks in the Shanahan system in year 2, for the most part, take a massive jump. And just like you said, with his raw talent, we're all expecting that, as well as an added talent just to the team overall. So excited
Absolutely.
for that. We can touch on Mike White and Joe Flacco.
Yep.
Hopefully, we don't really see these guys next year. Hopefully, we see Zach Wilson for all 17 games. But as you know, with COVID and just injuries in general, it is quite possible that we see one of these guys for a game or 2. Hopefully not. But, Mike White was probably a surprise for most people. Obviously, he's been kind of cut and released here multiple times. And a lot of people had concerns entering the season about our backup quarterback position. But the Jets kind of stood pat with their stance of not adding a veteran until they traded for Flacco mid-season. Because honestly, maybe they didn't even expect Mike White to play as good as he did.
Right.
But with that being said, I think the Jets are planning to bring definitely one of these guys back, and this could be the quarterback room again next year.
Yes, I completely agree. I think at least one of either Mike White or Joe Flacco has to be brought back. And to me, I feel comfortable with if they're able to bring back all 3, I think that'd be great. And, overall, we can feel really good about that quarterback group. Obviously, White, I said it last week, he's been with the team since 2019 now. Obviously, this whole year in the LaFleur system. Flacco is like the perfect veteran to have. I mean, arm strength, experience, his 1 games in the league is respected. So overall, I think the quarterback position we can, for once, feel pretty good about overall.
Yeah. So let's enter into a running back position. One of the most exciting rookie running backs, especially in terms of missed tackles and just his contact balance. So let's round out the room first. Michael Carter, Tevin Coleman, Ty Johnson, Austin Walter, and Michael P. Ryan, right?
Yep. And if you want to count Mcbowden as well, obviously fullback kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess with Carter, I mean, you said it, the contact balance is obviously something that gets us all excited. He's built well to the ground. He uses it to his advantage well. He runs hard. He runs with power for a smaller guy. Obviously, always had that pedigree as a receiver out of the backfield. He was very successful this year on third downs. Even as a pass blocker, he brought some good things. And to me, like he proved that he can run in between the tackles on first and second down. So it's really exciting that we got him in the 4th round.
Yeah, and I know this is a player a lot of Jet fans were excited about when we got him. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't expect this in year 1,
Right.
especially because kind of we didn't see training camp, but even in the preseason games, it didn't look like he was like that gonna contribute that much this year. I think me and you agreed that I thought Ty Johnson was going to be the number 1 running back this year, or at least kind of a 1A, 1B type of running back. But the way Michael Carter just progressed throughout the entire year was just really nice to see. And for a 4th round pick, it's just like an excellent. He's just a good player at this point, which is great.
Absolutely.
And we haven't had a running back like this, especially someone that we drafted, to look forward to. So it's just really exciting, and I hope that we kind of get him a power back to go with him going forward.
Absolutely. It really started in that Patriot game too, where like the offense just had nothing going, and he was great all game on the outside runs. He's obviously great with a floor zone running scheme, and overall, I mean, you just said it, he's a player.
Yep. And any game that he wasn't in, you noticed. So that's how you can
Right.
tell when someone's missing. Tevin Coleman, I think a kind of a player that nobody was that excited for when we signed him. I think he proved that he has juice left in the tank. Like I know he's kind of young. He's gotten injured before, but Coleman was pretty good this year, and especially in games that Carter did miss. Like Coleman kind of stepped in, and obviously they're not the same player, but Coleman was effective with his yards per carry, and he just looked like he was 1 or 2 tackles away from taking a few to the house. So.
Right. I mean, and he still has that speed all these years. Obviously, that's always what he's been known for, and he really showed it this year. Obviously, his familiarity most of his NFL career in this exact offense, and when he had opportunities when Carter went down, I felt like even in the passing game as a receiver, he showed some good things. And overall, like if they were to bring him back as a backup, I'd have no issue with it.
Yeah, he should come back on a 1-year deal, and then you can obviously still add one through the draft. But in terms of depth and stuff, and like we said, you just never know in the NFL. It's good to have someone who's familiar with the system, and he still has something left in the tank. So I'd bring him
Right.
back. Kind of a surprising one, Ty Johnson. In terms of, I think this is one of my disappointing players for sure. Obviously, he had some great moments when he did catch the football, like the way he was able to actually break tackles, and the ones that come to mind is obviously the Bengals touchdown when he caught it down the sideline, and then the next week, I think he did it against the Colts. Granted, it was in garbage time, but that he just made a couple of impressive plays throughout the year, but it just wasn't nearly consistent. He dropped multiple passes, and a lot of them weren't just drop passes, but they were tipped in the air, so it was leading to dangerous situations. Not really a great pass protector. I'm not sure if he's going to be here next year on the 53. When we trim it down to 53. He is definitely worth bringing back to training camp and try to figure it out with the drops, because he does have talent. But for me, it was a disappointment for most of the year.
Perfectly put, honestly. I think we both, after what he showed in 2020, had some expectations with a bigger opportunity. Obviously, we love the speed. Like, even in the low moments, like, he still showed you he's got explosiveness, and he's got some good power, some size, too. Obviously, his role, I guess, was a bit of a surprise. Like, he was really just utilized so much on third downs. And like you said, obviously, he was not a very good pass blocker. He did have some really good moments as a receiver. I just think overall, though, like the ball security, there was the fumble in the Colt game. Obviously, the game we were at against the Saints when he had the 3 drops were really tough to overcome. And then, he was kind of just in the doghouse there for like 3 games in a row. So definitely he's under contract for 2022, and he's, like you said, worth having through training camp and everything like that. But I would say in terms of like a guaranteed lock, right now, I don't see it.
Yep. So we'll go next. Austin Walter.
Yep.
This one's kind of surprising. Obviously, the floor definitely likes him because he's kind of been on and off the team since he's gotten here. But he got a chance this year for one game, I think, against the Texans, and he played pretty well. Kind of a shock. I'm happy for him. He got a really cool story. I think he's someone that will be brought in for competition back to training camp, and we'll see if he earns a spot. Like I said, the staff definitely likes him. Like, he has some fans in the building. But I wouldn't guarantee his spot next year, but we'll see.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, when he did have some opportunity starting in that Texan game, like he showed some good things, some juice as a runner. Obviously, he's another guy, kind of like Michael Carter, built low to the ground, has some quickness, and he should 100% be back as well for training camp, just for depth, to round out the roster, have some good competition there, like with him and Ty Johnson.
Let's go up to another fourth round running back, but the year before, Michael P. Ryan. It was kind of a shock. I thought he would be given more of an opportunity, especially given we've had, kind of went through a couple different running backs with injuries and stuff like that. And the only opportunity he really got was the Saints game because we were literally down 3 running backs. So I just don't think he's going to be here next year. He might not even make it to training camp. Obviously, maybe not an ideal scheme fit, but like he does have a little bit of power. But he just seems to be just not in the coaching staff's plans. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right with that. Obviously, a fourth round pick in his second year. The scheme fit, I guess, was always kind of a question mark that we all had, just because so much of LaFleur's offense is predicated around speed, quickness, explosiveness. Now, I like P. Ryan's size, his ability as a power back. I guess that's one thing maybe that this position group right now lacks. But I guess he's under contract and he'll be with the team. I guess it's a big training camp for him this summer.
Yeah, I liked him coming out, but obviously that was from a different coaching staff. So we'll see what happens with him going forward.
And I guess you want to hit on Nick Bowden here quick. Obviously, like this offense, there is a fullback that's integrated. We thought there was a chance Kyle Juszczyk could be a Jet, which was tough when he re-signed with the 49ers. And they never really, between like him and Trayvon Wesco, I guess it was just very inconsistent. He had I think 1 or 2 receptions on the year, and I guess his impact as a blocker was never too noticeable. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, the only play I kind of remember is was kind of a good when Flacco played against the Dolphins. It was just a nice developed route where he went over the middle like with a slant. They kind of faked the defense. It looked like a fake screen, and he was kind of just wide open.
I actually don't remember that play.
Yeah, I think if you Google it, it'll probably pop up. But
gotcha.
It wasn't like that noticeable. But obviously, I don't think he got much of a chance. I only remember him playing for about 3 or 4 games, and that was I believe his Wesco was kind of injured, and just he got injured I think 2 times this year, Wesco. So these guys are worth bringing back. This scheme obviously needs a fullback if we can. It opens up more avenues for the offense to just take another step forward. So I do wonder if the Jets will maybe sign a fullback or draft one in the later rounds this year.
No, 100%. Yeah, I think that they should look to bring a fullback. It can only help. And overall, just with the running backs here, I feel good about Carter taking on a big role, and would just like to see quality insurance, whether that's signing a free agent or a mid-round draft pick again.
And I think that's going to happen. And I think you said
Agree.
We'll touch on it. We'll look at the Senior Bowl team. I think one of those guys will probably end up New York Jet on day 3 of the draft. So
right.
Let's go to our wide receiver room. Up and down room in terms of there was definitely some excitement, and then there's also disappointment. So let's go off the names first. Obviously, we got Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Braxton Barry, Crowder, Keelan Cole, Jeff Smith, Denzel Mims. You'll want to throw in Vincent Smith too.
Right.
But so there's obviously a lot of positives and negatives here. So let's just go one by one. Elijah Moore, another outstanding rookie. Obviously, kind of had a little bit of slow start to the year. Granted, he got hurt kind of toward the end of training camp, and for whatever reason, the offense, when he came back, well, he did play week 1, but obviously he missed kind of the end of camp and the end of preseason. So he was thrown into a role straight away, and just him and Zach really weren't on the same page. But then obviously Elijah Moore kind of just picked up, and he just kept going up. Honestly, I don't think he had a bad game starting with the Bengals game. He went on like a 5-week stretch where he was literally, I think, a top 5 receiver in terms of fantasy. So, and it wasn't just fantasy. It was just evident watching the games how much of a difference he was making. Obviously, at the Bengals game, the Colts game was really the coming out party on national television where he had 2 touchdowns. The Dolphins game where, when Flacco catches a slant and takes it, I believe, 60 yards. Just a great play.
Yeah, big play.
And then obviously the last game of the year he played was the Eagles and scored a touchdown and made some big plays in that game too. So
Yeah, I mean,
Super
I think
excited.
we were both shocked when we went with the receiver there, but like I was still ecstatic about the pick just because I loved the prospect that Moore was, the character, just the talent. You knew he was like a safe prospect with still room to grow in terms of potential. Has speed, very reliable hands, good route runner. Can be utilized inside or outside. Obviously, he's great with LaFleur on just jet motions, sweeps, the orbit motions, screen game. After the catch, he can be dynamic. And, overall, I feel great about him moving forward. I mean, he's an exciting player.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, kind of a shock that we drafted him because most of us felt pretty good about the receiver room entering the draft. We didn't know where the Jets were going to prioritize it, and he ended up being our best receiver this year. So I think that's just a lesson: just take the best player available, especially if you see someone as a great scheme fit, because you can just never have enough talent, honestly, in a wide receiver room.
Absolutely. Expect a big year, too, from Moore.
So let's move on. Our big free agent addition, Corey Davis. I believe he missed 7 games to end the year. I mean, if you want to count,
Yeah. He played the Eagles game. He probably played in like 8 or so games
yeah.
total, I would say.
And the Eagles game, you could just tell he wasn't healthy.
He wasn't
And
himself.
he left third quarter. I do think he had a couple good games, which isn't being really mentioned. Obviously, started off the year really good with 2 touchdowns. I think the issue is more so obviously he had a lot of drops that has to be cleaned up. I don't think that's something that was an issue with him. His
And with the
4
Titans.
years with the Titans, so I think that'll just go down. I think the main issue was the offense. I kind of hinted at it with Moore. The offense just wasn't playing very well to start the year. Obviously, we had some injuries, and Corey Davis just kind of fed the ball like too much. We just didn't really have any other options. And obviously, when you're watching the Jets offense and it's not looking good, and you have a receiver dropping passes, people are upset. But I do think going forward, we've talked about this like kind of off here, but a lot of the Douglas's free agents from like year 1 to year 2 kind of have gotten better, and I think Corey Davis will kind of round out to, kind of close to 1,000 yards next year, assuming he stays healthy. And I think that has to do with obviously Zach Wilson taking a year 2 jump, but also having this offense be more balanced. Like start the year, Michael Carter he didn't really get going until like the end of September, and then Elijah Moore we talked about kind of October-ish. So I think with more balance and more weapons on this offense, it'll just look a lot better.
Completely agree. I mean, we both like the Davis signing. Has a good size, great blocker in the running game, which is an asset to have when you think about the amount of play action the Jets want to do. Over the middle, he's a threat. In the red zone, he made some plays. Obviously, I think he had 4 or 5 touchdowns. The Titans game, the Panthers game, like he had some great moments. And I think he is being a bit disrespected, honestly. Like you said, I just think so much of the problem was he was being force fed the ball early on. Like we said before with Elijah Moore missing time. And him and Zach both being rookies, obviously wasn't just gonna start fast, so to speak. And obviously Crowder missed some time in the beginning of the year, so it was really just Corey. And I think that's what it kind of worked against him in a sense. And now you're seeing him kind of just being disrespected a little bit. I expect Corey Davis, like you said, with George Fant, Connor McGovern, some of those first and second year progression made from some of the free agent Stokes has brought in. I think Corey Davis is gonna have a good year next year.
Yep, I totally agree. Let's go to Braxton Barry. That's kind of the one that I think majority of Jet fans want to bring back and re-sign. I think it's pretty simple. He's always a good punt returner since he's been here. Obviously showed he could do kickoff return. Made the All Pro team for that as a returner. So just someone we should definitely sign back. Granted, hopefully the money doesn't get too high, but he does a lot of things well. And even as a receiver, he's gotten better kind of every year he's been here. And obviously he can do some stuff if LaFleur calls his number. So just someone that should be brought back, and nothing really else.
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly it. Every year, Barrios got better. Obviously, started out on special teams, and just incrementally, his role as a receiver increased. And you saw, just like I said it last week, his hands, his route running, he was really utilized across the fields. It's kind of similar to Elijah Moore with Michael Ford and just all the motioning, the speed, the ability to get yards after the catch. I think he's a great like depth player to have who can really just be relied on even more as like a starter almost. And obviously huge on special teams, and we've seen that. The Jets lost Andre Roberts before they brought him in, and he had such a great year. And we were worried about that, and Barrios really took it on, and his first team All Pro, obviously. So should be brought back, absolutely.
Yeah, I think these are the top 3 that we're looking forward to round out
Right.
the room, obviously with what we add. These next couple guys obviously could be gone or just low piece death. Crowder obviously had a good the leading receiver here. I think all 3 years or
All
no.
three, I'm pretty sure. Yep.
Okay. This year didn't really seem like it because he missed a lot of time and obviously had a couple good games, but he just kind of looked like he was on the way out when they restructured him. And obviously, it's not that he's not a scheme fit, but I don't think the Jets kind of prioritize his skill set as like a slot receiver. I think we're looking for that X, and obviously Crowder is a really good slot receiver. I think he's going to play well elsewhere, but I just don't think he'll be back. But I like
Yeah.
Crowder, and he did his best here, honestly, through some really down years. So
Absolutely. I thought Crowder was a great Jet the last 3 years. I think he did lead the team in receptions all 3 years, and I think receiving yards 2 out of the 3, I want to say. He's a great slot receiver in the league, proven. But yeah, just the writing is kind of on the wall there with that. But he was productive this year. I mean, the Titans game especially stands out. Him and Zach were connecting, and just wish him the best, really.
yeah. So a free agent we brought in was Keelan Cole. I think kind of a disappointment. It kind of went under the radar because everyone was focusing on Mims. But Keelan Cole had plenty of opportunities here. Granted, we wanted him as a depth piece at number 4. But, he did some nice things in Jacksonville. We were kind of excited when we got him in free agency as a depth piece, just in case anyone had to miss time. And he got a lot of opportunity here. Obviously, he had the nice game against the Titans. And I just can't remember. And maybe the Colts game, if you want to add that too. He had some good moments. Yeah. But for most of the year, I think he was a complete disappointment, especially toward the later half of the year when kind of we were missing Elijah Moore and Corey Davis. You just expected more from Cole, and it just didn't happen here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Titan game, he was great. The Colt game, he made a couple of impressive catches. But overall, I mean, he's got speed, and I just feel like there wasn't a ton of separation overall. Not like as many big plays as we would have hoped for. I was excited when we signed him too. And that depth was tested, and we felt good about it going into the year. And it never materialized there down the stretch.
Denzel Mims, probably the most debated topic to start the year. I kind of felt that way going into October. Someone that I think most of the Jet fans were very happy to get, including us in the draft, and then I feel like he showed quite a bit, or at least promised his rookie year. We felt like, he take the next step in year 2, and we just we heard all the reports in OTAs and then training camp, and then it almost like we didn't really want to believe it because we've seen what he could do in Baylor. You've seen some of the flashes rookie year, and you're like, all right, just give this guy time, and he'll kind of figure it out. But I just don't think he's going to be a Jet next year. Obviously, he's another player who had an opportunity kind of just make us believe in him and the coaching staff toward the end of the year when we were missing 3 wide receivers. So like he did get chances, and he just didn't really make any. He didn't make the most of his opportunity for sure. And for whatever reason, it just obviously the play on the field is itself because he's clearly lacking confidence. But there was clearly issues going on with him and the coaching staff. So.
Absolutely. I mean, it was, like you said, very talented at Baylor. We were excited that we got him where we did in the second round. The rookie year, despite the injury to start the year, like he showed a ton of promise in that 3-4 game stretch. I feel like it was just with jump balls, his size, his vertical ability to win with speed. And I think we almost just didn't want to believe it. Obviously, he had the food poisoning issue during OTAs, which probably didn't help. And we were still holding on to hope that he was going to be integrated, at least in a red zone type of role where the Jets did struggle, and he couldn't even get on the field. And obviously, like you said, it was the mental mistakes, the penalties, and that stuff. Just you can't have it on the field. So it's disappointing. I agree. I think maybe he's the team in training camp or whatever, but I don't see him being on this roster next year, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, let's round it out with, I guess, both the Smiths. Obviously, Vincent didn't make the 53, but Jeff Smith did. And this is someone actually I think the front office definitely likes because he was here under the Gase tenure. And I know he did a lot of good things on special teams. So, the coaching staff now does like him because Saleh did mention that early in the year when they were talking about Mims, how much the difference Jeff Smith was making as a gunner and just stuff like that. I don't feel like I've seen him much on the field as a receiver this year.
Right.
Maybe a game or two, but obviously this is just kind of a guy you bring back to training camp and see if he can round out the 6 or 7 spot.
Absolutely. Just you hope, like you said, special teams. He did have one impressive block in that Buccaneer game. I think it was the big play Michael Carter had early on. If he could take on a role with that, obviously it'd be helpful. And just, hopefully more time with Zach and LaFleur, he can continue to grow. Obviously, Jeff Smith has been with the Jets, I think, like 3 years or so now. So
yeah, he has. All right, so let's go to our tight end room. Obviously, got Tyler Kroft, Ryan Griffin, Wesco, who's kind of a tight end and fullback, and then Yeboah. Surprisingly, our tight end room was actually better than it was last year, but that's still not saying much because we probably have the worst tight end room in the league, maybe first or second worst. So I think we expected a little bit more from Kroft. Obviously, he dealt with a couple injuries, which was unfortunate. But this scheme clearly needs tight ends going forward. I think we're gonna get two new ones in here next season. Maybe you bring one of these guys back as depth between Kroft or Griffin if they want to go that route. But like Kroft, I think is maybe a valuable number tight end too. But obviously, when he's forced into the tight end one spot here, it just really wasn't pretty all year. I think Yeboah, just speaking on him, because he'll be brought back obviously to camp, see if he can take on a further role. Toward the end, he didn't really get much of an opportunity, but he did have a few nice games, or like at least against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right at the end, where he showed some nice things. I know blocking was always a question with him, but he did have some receiving ability. So we'll see if he can, take that next step. And going into year 2, if he kind of like takes that, even his body, just kind of getting acclimated to the NFL and getting his weight up. So if he can even block and be even if he's just a red zone target, that would be a nice UDFA signing.
Right. So, Kroft was I felt like a solid signing, I guess. And obviously the injuries didn't help. Griffin, I kind of expected to just get released at this point. Wesco, I guess, as a blocker can be impactful.
He had some nice blocks this year for sure.
Yeah, no, he certainly did. And Yeboah, like you said, was someone we were excited as UDFA to sign. The Buccaneer game definitely showed, what he can do as pass catcher. And, like you really said it best, 2 tight ends have to be added, whether it's 2 in free agency, 2 in the draft, or 1 from each. This position is important in this offense, and they've got to do better. The tight end position has been bad with the Jets for far too long now.
We'll always have the Yeboah Hail Mary at the end of the Eagles preseason game.
Oh, the preseason game. Yeah, we were at your house. That was.
But let's go on to the offensive line now. I think this is a unit that's gotten better over the last couple of years for sure. Agreed. We've been dealing with, the 32nd, 31st, and 30th ranked O-line for years. But obviously, we've done a lot to address it. It's still not complete yet, but definitely in the right direction. We had obviously George Fant be a left tackle for majority of the year after Becton ended up suffering a season-long injury. Elijah Vera Tucker, Mcgovern, the combination obviously of Van Roten to start the year, and then LDT, and then Morgan Moses. So,
the group is definitely much improved, and I feel better about it. Like you said, I think Fant was the best player on the team this year. Was unbelievable as pass blocker on Zach's blind side at left tackle. I think AVT really showed us everything we'd expected. We were pumped to trade up and get him. Obviously, he was really who we wanted. A great athlete, was a difference maker in the running game. And overall, I think his pass block was very steady, and he's going to continue to get better. Mcgovern, obviously, similar to Fant, like we said, from year 1 to year 2 with the Jets, definitely was better scheme fit, obviously, in the zone blocking scheme, running. It'll be interesting, I guess, to see if the Jets do bring in a center or not, to compete with him or whatever. But either way, I feel good about Mcgovern if they keep him. LDT was awesome. We touched on that last week. And same with Morgan Moses. To have him as the swing tackle coming into the year was, obviously crucial, and he was great at right tackle. I obviously got beat at times as pass block, but fought through injuries, was great in the running game. And, overall, this group is definitely much improved by Joe Douglas.
Yeah, and it's going to be another one that's kind of a couple of these guys are going to be debated through the offseason because LDT is a free agent. Fant has 1 more year left, and Moses is a free agent. So there's still it's going to be a hot topic again in Jets land. But just speaking on the play, obviously Fant took a pretty I think he had a decent year in 2020, but obviously this year at left tackle, he was just, like you said, probably the best player on the team, at least top 2 or 3. And just someone who constantly won, especially as a pass blocker. He ranked kind of in the top 5 or 6 of left tackles. So we'll see. He's going to be here in 2022. It's just kind of interesting to see what happens with him. Like it's
Right.
obviously he's either going to be extended or he's going to play out this final year, I think. So we'll see what happens there. I do expect him to
I'd
be a
love to
starter.
extend him. What's that?
Yeah. I do expect him to be a starter.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't. I think it's going to be right tackle, but obviously,
Okay.
I think me and you disagree here, or we're
Yeah, I think that they're going to keep Fan at left tackle and probably go with Becton at right tackle. That's what I think.
yeah. So
And even if they draft like Evan Neal or Ike Mcgovern, they'll probably start at right guard, obviously, which is the one unknown, obviously, with LDT's free agent status. And I either way, I expect JD to look for a long-term right guard, whether that be free agency or the draft.
Yeah, and yeah. So like, I don't think Moses is coming back.
Agree.
I know we'll see what happens, but I doubt it at this point because the draft is an option for that, for a long-term option if it comes to that.
Right.
I don't think they'll be sending, or extending Morgan Moses to a pretty decent sized deal, even though like with the injuries to back then, and even Fant has suffered injuries in his career. So like I could see they're definitely going to prioritize at least a swing tackle or a developmental guy going forward. They have to. And like you touched on, the right guard position is the one that really needs to be addressed this offseason. It'll be interesting to see if they do sign back LDT and they kind of pair him with the second and third round rookie, or if they do go that route where they take Evan Neal or Charles Cross or, whatever they do. I wouldn't mind if they just go out in free agency and sign a Brandon Sheriff, or there's a couple different options. James Daniel, like you said.
Alex Kappa.
Yeah, Kappa actually, I think he'd be my favorite one just because of his age.
Yep.
My Sheriff's only 30, but like Kappa, I believe, is 26 or 27.
Yep.
I think that's a long-term option there. And then like at that point, you invested a lot in your offensive line. I think it's almost complete. Obviously, you still need to get depth and stuff in the draft. Like I still want to take guys in the mid rounds and let them develop and sit.
100%.
But in terms of like, it's almost a complete unit. I think they ranked around 17th this year or 18th, and that's considering the games they had against Carolina and the Bills to end the year. So
right
with that, so anybody watching the games, it definitely clearly took a big step in the right direction. And we didn't even mention Becton this year because he didn't really play. It's interesting because Tucker, which you touched upon, I think Tucker was great in the run game. I think there was a couple games where he was obviously beating pass protection, but as the season went on, obviously he got much better, and we're kind of expecting maybe a Pro Bowl type of season next year if he can stay healthy. But I feel like Becton is the forgotten man, or the guy who's getting hated on right now, which I get. It's frustrating, the injuries, and we want to see him play. But I feel like you touched upon it with Corey Davis. I feel like people don't remember Becton playing football at all. Maybe because the Jets had 1 win last year or 2 wins when you were watching. Maybe you checked out. Like, I don't know. But Becton played when he did finish games and he played last year. He was one of the best rookie left tackles in the NFL. So obviously, if he plays right tackle, we'll see. Maybe you're right. But just want Becton on the field because he'll make such a big difference in
absolutely.
the run game, especially. So. But anything to add to else there?
I just want to say the receiver group, we didn't necessarily touch up on like the offseason. I think whether it's through free agency, the draft, or a trade, they definitely need to add like a starter. Even with more Davis, and if they bring back Barrios, like they still have to have one more guy, whether it be a true deep threat, a possession receiver, or a true X. Like they definitely need one more guy there.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this, but we'll bring it up here. I think it's going to end up being a trade. Okay. I think it could obviously be, it could still be the draft, but I think it's kind of tough. Like we have a lot of needs in the draft, and obviously if you can add a star receiver in free agency or trade, I think you do it because, Jameson Williams is someone me and you both really liked. Like we can't take him in the top 10 now because of the injury, unfortunately. We obviously have a lot of picks, but Jets and Douglas need to start winning right now. And Jameson Williams might miss half his rookie season or all of it. So it's interesting to see. Obviously, there's still good receivers in the draft class like Garrett Wilson. And if they want to trade down, maybe Traylon Burks or Drake London, I'm good with that route too. But I feel like they're going to have to get a couple positions obviously filled up in free agency first. So that might end up being one of them.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if they went for a Calvin Ridley, DJ Moore, Amari Cooper. Yeah. Look, I'm all for it. And any good football player to help Zach, I'm excited.
Said, like, yes, if that does happen, we're not going to take a receiver in round 1 or 2.
Right.
Still add someone on day 3 of the draft, like,
absolutely.
And we probably should. So,
yeah, depth is always needed. So I guess now we'll finish up. Obviously, the Senior Bowl rosters have been offensively have been finalized with the offensive line being released today. You want to just touch up on a couple of our favorites that the Jets coaching staff will have. Obviously, it's worth pointing out that the 49ers' coaching staff with Saleh and LaFleur were there with Deebo Samuel in 2019, and you see what he's become. So it's definitely, an important event and a great opportunity for the Jets coaching staff. So you want to talk about a couple of your favorites here that the Jets have?
And the Senior Bowl seems like it's gotten better every year in terms of, you look at some of these guys. These guys are going in probably top 50, top 60. Some of these guys. So
yeah,
an exciting group, and probably the one we mentioned before, where we need probably two new bodies in here, is tight ends. And I feel like all the good tight ends in this draft class are kind of either on the Jets or Lions team in the Senior Bowl. So obviously, everyone's favorite, Trey McBride. Like, that's just going to be someone mocked to the Jets in the top of round 2. I think all of draft season. Obviously, he had like 1,000 yards this year as a tight end in college, which is absolutely nuts. That would be a great pick for us if we can get him. But I feel like everyone knows him. Obviously, I would like Jeremy Rucker. Like, I wouldn't even mind.
Those are the two I'm with you. The top two for me.
If they double dip there, because Rucker really was a player who I think is going to have a better pro career than he did in college, because he didn't really get much of an opportunity. With obviously blocked and stuff, but in terms of the receiving game, it was just more of Olave and Wilson and everyone else they have down there. So I'm just excited to see him down here. I do like Charlie Kohler as well. Just kind of as a red zone target for us. If obviously there's a lot of different people here and we can't get everyone we want. So
right.
One player I do want to mention on the running backs is Jerome Ford. He's actually on the Jets Senior Bowl team. I think he would be kind of my favorite if he makes it to round 4. On day 3, top of round 3. I just think he's kind of the perfect complement. Obviously, he's a Bama transfer, and he had 2 productive seasons with Cincinnati. I just feel like he'd be kind of the perfect complement in terms of, because he has speed too to the power, and he's like 225. So I feel like that would be a nice kind of like the final piece of the running back room. But
McBride and Rucker, I'm with you on all the way. Obviously, Rucker's father has made it known that he would love for the Jets to draft him. He's from Long Island. Great blocker, like you said, good athlete, and he's going to be better in the NFL just because in the passing game he's going to get more opportunities. He's got size. Mcbride obviously is a complete tight end, someone we've all been a fan of really throughout this process. Complete tight end. And receiver, obviously you talk about with Jahan Dotson and his speed. Alec Pierce, I think, is another one worth noting there. Is a big slot. I think he could be a second-round pick. And then we talked so much about the offensive line depth. A couple of guys at swing tackle in particular. Daniel Flaley from Minnesota has a ton of size in like the second, third round. And then Bernard from Central Michigan. Cool background. He's from like Australia. He's going to be like a 25-year-old rookie, but really talented prospect. He's getting a lot of hype in like the second round. So
McKinnon would have taken him in the first.
What's that?
McKinnon would have taken him in the first round.
25-year-old rookie, yeah. But I mean, overall, I think it's going to be good. Zion Johnson, we talked about right guard, maybe finding in the second rounds. He would be ideal. So it should be exciting to see how these guys do.
Yeah, and it's a pretty strong group. Obviously, we see who we get on the defensive side as the week goes on. But another player I really liked is actually Cole Strange. I'm looking at the roster right now. He's going to be probably day 3. But just, I think these are guys that we should be investing on, even if we do sign a big free agent at guard. We still need depth here, so because obviously Cam Clark we don't know if he's going to play again. So it's just important to keep adding pieces because you never know. Some of these, you hope some of these guys are future starters. So, and the last one you mentioned,
the last one I wanted to talk about was Trevor Penning, who I think is probably going to be the one that's picked first out of all these guys when all is said and done. Like, do you think he can potentially be a top 10 pick? Like we're talking about Evan Neal, Ike McWanu, Charles Cross, Tyler Linderbaum, Kenyon Green. Like, do you think Penning he's huge. He's like 6'7". He's a great athlete. It's ridiculous to think that him and Spencer Brown, when you look at what Brown's been able to do for the Bills as a third-round rookie, that they were both at Northern Iowa together as bookend tackles. So do you think, or maybe even from a trade down, obviously we've talked about the Jets trading down, do you think that Penning could potentially be an option?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say in the top 10 just because of how I feel like the top's kind of locked, maybe in terms of being Neal, Cross, like you said, Linderbaum. Maybe you have a different order, but in terms of those players, it's kind of being the established 3 or 4. up there. I think that'll not really change, but Penning has an opportunity now to even raise his draft. I think he is kind of guaranteed in the first round, and I think
Agree.
probably by the end of the Senior Bowl, depending on how it goes and the combine, of course, he could end up in the early 20s, late teens. So if we did decide to trade down, it's definitely an option. And the Jets are going to be here having the whole week. So if they really fall in love with him, as a player and as a person, it could happen.
No, 100%. That was one I was intrigued by for sure. So.
And just before we end it, one player I like who's actually not on the Jets roster is tight end is Isaiah Likely. I just feel like he has a lot of upside. Obviously, he went to Coastal Carolina. We'll see how he does down here, but just someone that has great receiving ability. And it's interesting because he kind of reminds me of Jonnu because he's kind of like a
bit smaller, right after
the Jets kind of missed out on him last year. Jonnu, I don't know if we went for him completely, but was someone we kind of all talked about us having maybe interest in. So it'll be interesting to see if Likely draws like praise from this coaching staff.
Right, and we talked about like Mims being the red zone threat and how that was. I think this guy had like close to 30 touchdowns in his 4 years at Coastal Carolina, and I think this year he had 12. I wrote it up for an article, so he'd be great. And probably after Mcbride, like he's a consensus tight end. So
yeah, and someone. I mean, there's a couple different. We like a lot of the options here. So
right.
But I think that really does it.
Yeah, that was great, bro. Thank you for watching, and we got more coming. We'll have NFL game reviews and previews from this past weekend, and we'll get for the upcoming week. So,
yep, guys, talk to you soon.